All right, welcome everyone to the Ship GTM podcast. Today, Aman and I are going to walk through some SEO tips. Aman has a really good strategy for building topical clusters that can help your website rank. So I'm going to kind of interview him today and have him walk us through the workflow and basically how to use it in practice.
Sweet. Yeah, the whole idea here is a strategy that I've used in two different websites. So I've had once this app, it was called Arabic Bridge to help you learn Arabic. So that one, I got it to about 1,000 visitors a month. Again, with no backlinks, I didn't pay for anything. I just kind of built out these topical clusters after I watched another YouTube video.
That's so sick.
And then I had another project, which is called Casely.ai, which was kind of a legal B2B SaaS tool. And same concept, ran this topical clusters play, built out a few articles, and then that started to rank as well. So we wrote an article here on our newsletter, which will basically outline everything that we're doing here. So maybe we can just start. Let's just go top to bottom and just give you an overview of what this strategy is all about. And then we also have a visual workflow that kind of goes through all the steps that's involved there.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cool. And so kicking off first, this is like just a performance thing that I pulled from one of my websites. I have not touched it in years. And this is still ranking. So that topical cluster is really doing well on Google. And I guess what's nice about the topical clusters, and we'll go into jump into a definition here in a bit, but it is more authoritative than doing like a programmatic SEO play. Because it's not really templated. It is answering like a real question that a real customer, user, person is having about a certain topic. And ultimately, I think the bottom line is these really help Google understand that you're an expert. So like ultimately, you should be answering the question. If the better you answer the question net, the more useful it's going to be for somebody, the more Google's going to want to show it. And ultimately, like that is Google's offer to their customers. Like we're going to give you answers to questions you have. So if you're able to answer it definitively, the more Google's going to want to show it.
Yeah, and so, that makes sense. I feel like that's people have been gaming to the programmatic SEO play over the past 2 years. Ever since you've been able to just scrape a ton of information, it's kind of like an easy play, and so it makes sense that there's like kind of maybe some negative parts of the SEO playbook associated with it.
Yeah, and I think like where programmatic SEO is good is if you have like just like states or like locations or whatever. But for a lot of things, like, if you're just like throwing a template at some keywords and just like multiplying them to get a bunch of pages, that can work if like you have a lot of detail in every page and it's like really unique. But this is like a different approach. This is like going to do a handful of like clusters of content to just prove like expertise in this area. So it's a bit of like a, let's say like quantity over quality type of play.
Yeah.
But, just in like my experience, like I've seen it work pretty well.
That's awesome. Because I guess people are still probably searching for these specific things. Like I'm sure you'll walk us through this, but like this like supporting headlines piece, I'm sure people are searching for things at least similar, right? So exactly. It's kind of relevant.
Yeah. So I mean, like let's get into it, right? So what is a topical cluster? The basic idea is like it's a T. So you have one big piece of like pillar content, and so this will be like the main thing that we're trying to answer. So like for example, Casely.ai. This is a SaaS tool in the legal tech space that writes documents for attorneys. Okay, so one pillar content we can write for this is AI legal document writing for attorneys, a complete guide. So this is going to be the main thing that we're going to write. And what we're going to do is like maybe this is like 2,000 to 3,000 words. So this is like the main piece. We're going to go off and answer a few more questions on the side. Each of these are going to be kind of ancillary to the main pillar content. They're going to be like 1,000 to 2,000 words. They're just going to be supporting whatever's happening here. And so, for example, the supporting headlines could be something around workflows for like attorneys, something around governance, use cases, right? Efficiency, competitor tools, like everything surrounding this topic are hallucinations. And so like the first step here is kind of finding like what is that pillar keyword? And like exactly like you said, a great way to find keywords is things that have high traffic and have low competition. And so the best way to find those I found is like you want to go to where your customers are. So for example, attorneys, so I'm here in r/lawyer talk. I'm just going to look at the last 7 days and see what the conversation's like, right? So what questions are people asking? What are the concerns, topics, or whatever? So now this is going to help me find stuff. Like if people are talking about it on Reddit, likely that someone hasn't like owned that keyword yet. So that's like the first step. And then next we want to learn about competition. That's where you really have to just use a tool. So we have like a few tools here that you've probably heard of, like Data for SEO. I like this because it's kind of more agentic. I can just point my agent to the API and it figures it out. I'm not an SEO guy, so all of the like things that are going on the screen here, like all these different like words and terms, it doesn't make sense to me. I just like want to know, like, is it high
Yeah.
volume and is it low competition? Like that's all I really care for.
Yeah, and I think a benefit of data for SEO is it's usage based, right? So I think it kind
Yeah.
of fits the model of building out a workflow. Like you don't necessarily have to have like an Ahrefs subscription, which can be really pricey. So yeah, same with
Yeah.
like SEMrush.
Exactly. Like these tools, like, and I really like this too. Exactly for that reason. Is like one, my agent can use it, so I don't have to like become an SEO expert. And then number two is like you see minimum is like $100 build annually. I mean, $140 if I'm doing it for the month, which is like
Yeah,
more than I need to pay. I mean, for context, like I've built out a handful of clusters here. I probably spent less than like $5 on data for SEO because I already
great.
I'm doing all this research on the keywords I think are going to be good, and then I can boil it down and just like explore the keywords more with data for SEO. Again, like we don't really have any stake in them. It's just a good tool.
Yeah.
It's for folks that like are kind of handy with API.
Yeah, and especially someone that doesn't want to fork over a few $100
Yeah,
for a SaaS tool.
exactly. And then of course we kind of rinse and repeat with supporting headlines. AI is really good here, right? If you've got like again, if you're in Claude or OpenAI, Cloud Codex, whatever, just throw that keyword in there, give it the research, and then spit out a bunch of keywords, and then run it through data for SEO again. So you also can like maximize the supporting headlines. So that way now we have pillar content and we have all the headlines. And again, we're just talking about headlines here. We're going to handle the writing in the next section, but now we're going to have that finished list of headlines and keywords that we're going to write to. And
Do you have do you have like a heuristic of how many supporting headlines you should have for a given article? Like what was in your experience, how many is like a good amount? Is it like, 20 or do you have only like 5 or 6? Does it really matter?
I'm not sure. I feel like this is where it kind of depends on like the question, like based on the pillar content, like how much content, how much like surrounding context do you need to get like a full answer here?
Yeah.
I think minimum probably 2 to 3, probably maximum like 7. I don't know. It's really kind of vibes based. Just really depends on like I think as you're writing the pillar content, that'll also help maybe feel like I mean this is where like you really have to know the domain. Like if you are a lawyer, like you probably want to cover hallucinations. You're probably going to want to cover how do these documents fit in like the litigation life cycle. And so like that's where it just helps to answer that question. But also like Reddit will help answer that too. It's really just kind of vibes based. Like
yeah, that makes sense. Like each question is probably different, and each topic is probably different.
Yeah. Okay, so now like we can move on to like writing, and at the end of this, I'm going to show kind of like the whole visual workflow as well. I think the writing is where people can get pretty messed up, especially with AI, because the quality of writing from AI is super dependent on what you feed it. And this is where it's really, really helpful to have some type of research step in your workflow, right? Now, again, let's say we're going to do this manually first to get the process down. This is where it's really helpful to do, like, actually read those Reddit posts and see what people are actually asking. Know what's going on in the space. So if I'm writing a piece about hallucinations, the writing is going to be improved if I can reference this particular case that happened like 2 weeks ago, right? So you just got to know what's going on. And then lastly, I think a kind of underrated tip is just like read fiction. Read a lot of books from like good authors. Read Steinbeck. Read, Dostoevsky. Read David Foster Wallace. Because then like their quality of prose is like over here, and AI is like probably over here. And so if you can just like improve it a little bit, add more rhythm, add more like intentionality to the writing, and just feed that into the prompt, AI will follow what you give it. So if you just are totally unopinionated there, you're gonna get average. If you give it like a few snippets of like prose that you really like, or like the way to describe things is a little bit more like poetic, throw that in there, and it's just the output is just gonna be better.
Yeah, that's interesting. A little bit of like a low effort hack to get better outputs. Just pick your favorite author.
And I think this is where like you can be opinionated. Like you're writing an answer that's kind of have some bias to like how you like to see the world or whatever your answer is. It can be the same with how the answer comes out, like what words you decide to use. And it just makes it more interesting. It makes it less AI. I think people will enjoy reading it more. And if people enjoy reading it more, AI, Google's AI and their algorithm is going to probably surface it more because like more people spend more time on this page, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so onto like publishing, and now you can see the teaser here for the AI workflow. I think for publishing, this is like pretty straightforward, but you kind of have also some foot guns here. You can use whatever CMS, right? So once you have the article written out, you go ahead and create your little header photo. I think the biggest thing here is you need to internally link your article. And this is
I
like
was going to ask about
this is where it all ties in. This is why we do the supporting and pillar content. The pillar content has to link out to the supporting articles. And so if we're covering every single one of those, like a little teaser to the supporting headlines, we should have links out to those supporting headlines. And those supporting headlines also should be linked back to the pillar content. So that way it's all like from Google's like crawler's perspective, it's all tied into each other. And so it really is like this kind of web of like internal backlinks that shows Google like I have covered this topic extensively.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like I think if people haven't seen it, but there's like you can represent Wikipedia as a graph and you can see like how they're all connected. And I think that does really well because then Google can see how the sitemap ties together. And then it's really helpful for it to index, from what I hear at least.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It's like, we call this out here, like most websites like WordPress, if you're using like a Yoast SEO,
yeah,
it's all kind of built in. But if you're like kind of hand rolling something like Next.js with Sanity CMS or something else, you should just make sure your sitemaps are up to date. Like all the like regular technical SEO bits are good to go. And most likely you can probably go to skills.sh and let's actually do this live. Let's see what we can find. Yeah, let's like look for an SEO audit. Yeah, great. You grab one of these skills and then you run it on your Claude Code and just on your project and just do a scan. Make sure it's all good to go. So when you run your topical clusters, that they're live, everything is like buttoned up and now it's all kind of ready for Google.
That's great.
Great. Let's go into like the actual workflow. So obviously you can do this by hand, but why when you have tooling? And so this is it. This is all the sauce you need. This is exactly what I have been doing for my projects and what you can be doing for yours. So this is that exact workflow, and this is all programmatically set up. You can see the code is all here, and we'll link it in the newsletter. So you'll see if I scroll down here, the whole like workflow code is here. You can toss this into Claude Code.
Amazing.
Ask any questions you have, modify anything you want. But basically, like we can kind of go over this really briefly, kind of step by step, if that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I think like, let's see. So the trigger, do you have it just set up to start manually?
Yeah, this is like, I think like you're probably gonna want to sit down and just do this. Like it's not something that needs to be happening like every day, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I guess you could if you're like, I'd say if your website is really well established, you could probably run this at like a regular cadence, like once a week or something. But if it's a newer website, a newer domain, it's just if you just start spamming topical clusters, I mean, how are you going to manage quality? And Google's going to ask the same question and just like start to unindex your sites. So we don't want that either.
So do you start it with this? Do you start with like an input? So here I see like on the right, there's like a description. Do you pass in some sort of description that then like triggers and does Reddit research for the topic, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do here is like the way I like to do this is like we'll start with maybe like a seed topic. Like maybe I know like I kind of want to cover this particular thing. Alternatively, like Reddit has these free APIs. You can just like grab context if you just give it a subreddit. And so the hack here is like sort it by week. So you get the weekly top threads, and then you get the output schema. So you see here, it's kind of this like crazy nested shape. Again, it's all the code is in the newsletter. You can just see it for yourself.
Yeah.
But it tells you like literally like what was the post, what was the body of the post. So like this is the question that people have. You run it across like 1, 2, 5 subreddits that you think are like kind of in your niche, and then what you do is you generate. You can basically use XAPI, which is another API that we use quite a bit. XAPI has really good just overall web searching tools. And so you can take some of those questions from Reddit in this workflow and then also search the web for it and just get like just some more context. Like we're just trying to grab the world of information in this initial step for ad lines. Over here, this is like some execute steps. So here we're just like combining everything.
Gotcha.
We're just putting it all into just a single string. Because what we're going to do next is call the Vercel AI gateway with like Claude Opus or whatever model works the best. And like the project is literally here, just like generate a set of pillar content keywords. Like here's the world of data. AI just generate some like headlines that'll work for this. And then the output for this is going to be that like string, like just an array of headlines that we're going to go into the next step. which is data for SEO. And so over here, same thing, like you just call their endpoints. You give it your keywords here from that last step, and then you just have it spit out what's the volume like. And this is going to use Google's endpoint. So you're just going to get live volume data.
That's awesome.
Once you have that, you just now feed it again back into AI. So we just want one, right? So we're going to give it now the list of keywords with the volume for each. And we're going to have the LLM figure out like what's the best thing to go after. And then we'll do the same for supporting headline keywords. Just kind of running through this real quickly. The next step there is we're just going to join the two. So now this is that single list I said of pillar content plus all the supporting headlines. So this could be like a list of like that 2 to 7 to 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And now we just loop over it. The loop is going to be pulling in what people have already written on this topic. So it could, obviously it's going to be, Google's going to return something for the keyword. So we're going to grab all those. That's the first step. Then we're going to use Pexels. Pexels is a stock image provider. Really helpful for kind of auto-generating those header articles, those cover images. You go ahead and prep the image. We're going to use Sanity CMS. So there's some Sanity CMS stuff in this custom code. And then we just go ahead and draft the article with AI. Again, these are some like boilerplate prompt stuff here, but again, you're going to want to add, context for like how you like to have your prose written. We go ahead and prep the markdown. Again, this is like really Sanity specific. And then you just upload the image to Sanity and send the draft over. And so again, this is just going to go looping after every single one of our keywords that I've generated. So pillar content done, supporting articles all done, and then they're going to live on Sanity as draft state. We can do a once over, make sure it's all good, and then just publish.
This is great.
Let it cook, let it sit for 30 days. And do that a few times, you got 1,000 visitors a month.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a follow-up question. How many times do you think you have to run this workflow, and then what's the cadence to maybe get to that first 1,000? Now that we have the workflow.
So I did actually. It's one of the projects I did. I was able to get to about basically what we saw earlier here. This is off of one. This is off of one topical cluster. It's just one really good topical cluster, and I literally haven't touched it in like a year and a half, and it's still getting traffic.
And this is per month? This is like 1,200 per month?
I think this is in that like that trailing 3 months view.
Okay. Wow. That's so impressive though, for just not touching it at all.
I have not touched it at all. Like when I first dropped it, I was getting a lot more traffic. But obviously like times, SEO is a very competitive landscape. But yeah, I literally haven't touched it, and it's just like hoovering in traffic. And so it takes some like work. I was just lucky I had one that popped off. But for others, I had to kind of experiment with more. So that workflow is here. The code is in our Substack here. You can go ahead and check it out. We're going to be releasing this project soon, which is called Draft Town, which will basically be a tool that basically like encapsulates all of this and is a done for you tool. We'll have like fun little RPG elements in there as well. But yeah, that's the awesome overall workflow.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I'm looking forward to this. I know that we're going to use this on some things and run some experiments. Love to hear what everyone else thinks, and drop us some feedback, and definitely check out the Substack. We'll link it to in this video as well. Sweet. Well, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.